So essentially, every fire department in the country has to answer the most important question that's in the fire service. Most important question is, are you going to operate as if buildings are occupied by unprotected civilians until we say they're not? Don't care what the neighbor says, don't care what dispatch says, don't care what time of day it is. It's occupied until we say it's not. And some people can't answer yes to that question. So your organization has to answer that question. Nobody can answer it for you. So volunteer departments, they may be able to say no until. They may be forced to say that. No until the next rig gets here. No until I get another person with me. They may be showing up with one pickup truck. But if your fire department has staffing, has clear objectives in their protocols, has the aggressive mindset, then the answer to that is most likely yes. And if the answer to that question is yes, that's the lens that we see all the decisions that we make on the fire ground through. So for this particular presentation, we're going to go through locate, confine, extinguish from the nozzleman and officer's perspective. So the goals for the nozzleman is locate, confine, extinguish. So we can find that in a lot of books, but it doesn't really expand on what that means to you at 3 o'clock in the morning. So like, what does that mean to the probie on the back step, how to locate the fire, confine it, and extinguish it. And we're talking about fires that aren't easy, that you can see on the way in. We have, fire showing from the Alpha Bravo corner in an open window. That's a pickup game. It's the challenging ones that you really need to start using your experience and using what you know on the fire ground. So with the goal of this, we want to locate, confine, and crush it with putting water between victims and fire. That's the main goal here. So, and I don't have, there we go. So locate the fire. Essentially from the nozzleman's perspective, I want you to hunt the intakes. Don't care where the exhaust is. Doesn't really affect my decision on where we're going to enter the building. The intake is everything. So as a company officer, I want you to use your 360 with a tick if it's not showing itself to you already. So 360 with a tick would be beneficial. And these are situations where you're not being shown up front where the fire is. It's not an obvious Alpha Bravo corner. And then lastly, as the nozzleman, I want you to force rebound with the stream if you're uncertain about where it is. And just remember, it's a big box with a bunch of boxes inside of it. So compartment firefighting is not rocket science. So as the nozzleman, when we're hunting intakes, you and your water will be best used in an intake versus an exhaust. Way better in an intake versus an exhaust. So we'll see some examples here in a minute. But essentially, there's 3 reasons why you're not having a positive return on investment on the fire when you're flowing water. Number 1, you didn't bring enough. Number 2, which is 99% of the time, you're not putting it in the right spot. And then number 3, it's wind driven. So if we can cross out the environmental issues of wind driven up front, you got 2 options. Either you didn't bring enough or you're not putting it in the right spot. So 9 times out of 10, 95% of the time it's because you're not putting it in the right spot. So see the fire's hungry, it wants to feed on the air that you're letting into the building, and it's going to draw itself directly to the seat of the fire. So we want to be able to follow these clues that we get upon entry of the first, when we make entry into this building. And if possible, we want to use that neutral plane that we may or may not have at this entry point, whether it be a garage door, window, front door, side door, whatever. So you got 3 options when you make an opening in a building. You're either going to be empty, half, or full, 9 times out of 10. And that will give you some navigational information inside the building. So small amount of smoke reading here. We make an opening in the building and it's empty, completely empty on your floor where you're entering that building. 9 times out of 10, that fire's above you. If you have half full, meaning a well-defined neutral plane, exhaust out, intake in, 9 times out of 10, that fire is on your level, wherever you made that opening there. So if I'm on the first floor of a 3-story building and I have a well-defined neutral plane on floor 1, there is a fire on floor 1. Doesn't mean there's not one on floor 2 or floor 3, but there's for sure a fire on the floor you're entering there. So if we have full, meaning that you make that opening and the smoke just keeps coming and coming and never stops. No matter how long you leave that opening open, it just keeps coming and coming and coming. You should anticipate a fire below you, wherever you are in that entry point there. So I want to look under that neutral plane and try to get some navigational information. Here's Harrisburg, got empty door, where's the fire? 9 times out of 10, it's above them. So he's going to find that well-defined neutral plane on the landing of that stairway. So up the stairwell, find the landing, well-defined neutral plane on the landing, fire. There is a fire on this floor, and back and to the right. We can just use that 30 seconds or so. This is a truck highway, don't water. But we can use that navigational information that neutral plane is giving us right here. Back and to the right, back and to the right. The flames are telling you where it's at. The smoke's telling you where it's at. It's all hungry and it's drawn towards that particular seat of the fire. This is in California. We want to make sure that we explain to our folks what positive return on investment looks like. So we have a well-defined neutral plane at the intake of the front door of this breezeway right here. For some reason, the decision was made to start putting water on the exhaust. Don't know why. I'm not here to talk about why they're doing what they're doing. We're just talking about what they're doing. So raise your hand if you think temperatures are going down in that room when he puts that nozzle into that exhaust point. I do immediately. And what happens when he takes it away? Immediate rebound, right? Immediate rebound. So we have to teach people what positive return on investment looks like. The reason he's having poor effect with this nozzle stream right now is number one, it's an automatic high pressure nozzle. The brothers on the L part of that table can talk to you about that. Number two, you can't see it unless you really diagnose it, but he's got it half bailed. So he may not have enough, and he's for sure not putting it in the right spot. So we're having immediate rebound when we move this line around. Immediate rebound from the exhaust point. The problem that he's having here is he's not able to put water on the seat of the fire, on the flame fuel interface from his position where he is right now. He knows where he needs to go. He's been trying to tell his captain he wants to go there 3 times already. He's going to point at it here in a second. The captain says, no, go this way. He's like, man, we got to go that way. Nope. The captain says, I want to stop horizontal fire spread. We're not here talking about why they did what they did. They're just what they did. So we have immediate rebound over and over and over again. This is what negative return on investment looks like. We're going to go back to the breezeway here in a second. Going back to the intake. This fire is traveling through this opening right here. That's why he's not having good return on investment. He's not able to put water on the seat of the fire. This seat of the fire, where from his perspective right here, is deeper than he can get penetrated with that nozzle. And this isn't an inside water versus outside water. This is water on fuel conversation. So we're able to extinguish gas fuel and immediate rebound right after that. So now we go back to the intake. Intake looks a little different now. Still has a well-defined neutral plane. Exhaust out, intake in. This is the only position where we have a well-defined neutral plane. So we should be going this direction. Got bagpipes playing in his head right now. Gonna get into a little stairwell push. I want to push it right-handed, but he's gonna push it left. And you can see, notice on the nozzle it's half bailed. It's an automatic nozzle, so you're not gonna see any stream disruption when he does that. So moving up the stairway, a little stairwell push, I dig it. Fire's on the right. I want you to take note of the breezeway right here. So that bottom 3 feet right there is what we would need to pay attention to. That bottom 3 feet on that breezeway is stagnant right now. He's got no gas contraction going on. He can't put water on the seat of the fire. He can't put water on the flame fuel interface from where he is right now. He's shielding himself from the radiating heat. I dig it. But he's got to make the turn. So when he makes the turn, I want you to notice that the captain's going to look away. He's going to look back. He's going to look away. And then that second time he looks back, look at that 3-foot level on the breezeway. Gas contraction, flow path reversal. That's what winning looks like. We've got to put water on the seat of the fire, and the intake will lead you to that direction. So, 360 with a tick. As a company officer, you have the choice between, usually with new ticks, fire and search mode. I would recommend that you do your 360 with a tick in search mode. Never enter the building in search mode. I would not do that. Always go back to fire mode. The reason being is in search mode, it changes the position of where your colorization is on that tick, and also shrinks the temperature that you're able to see. So in fire mode, and this is for a clear K65 on these videos that we're going to look, but it's 53 and above. In search mode, we can see colorization at 200 degrees. In fire mode, we see colorization at 300 degrees. So we've got to be able to give us something to draw our attention to it if something's not looking at us straight from the building. So fire and search mode give you the best results. Search mode on the exterior, fire on the interior. Look for irregularities, which Andy Staunch would call thermal bridging. I can at the very least determine which side of the building is on fire. Is it in Alpha Bravo? Is it in Charlie Delta? Is it on the Charlie side? Whatever. Don't let the screen consume your vision. Look at the building, look at the fire, look at the screen, look at the ground, and just have a scan going in your mind. Because if you get focused on that screen, that's how you end up ass up in a power wheel or such a thing. You don't want to do that. So don't let it consume your attention here. The absence of evidence is not the evidence of absence, meaning nothing showing means nothing. So as we're looking here, we're looking for things that don't look like the other. These 2 pictures on the left right here is the weather stripping seal that has been penetrated by thermal radiation, as you can see. And on the right here, we're looking for windows that don't look like the other. Best way you can train yourself with this is on medical calls, start looking at buildings that aren't on fire through your tick. And then that way, when you're looking at buildings that are on fire through your tick, things stand out to you. So he's in search mode when it's blue, fire mode when it's in green. And what we're looking for, if you'll notice the temperature regulation on the side tops out at 300 in search mode. We're looking at colorization at 200. So we're able to see that colorization, get our attention. Now we're back from 300 to 1200. We want to make sure we're on fire mode when we go through the threshold, because I want red to always mean the same thing on the inside. But on the exterior, we're just looking for something to grab our attention here. So, locating the fire as the nozzle on the inside of the box, and sometimes on the exterior, as you can see in that Fresno video that we saw. Essentially, when I've got uncertainty about which box is on fire, I can use the stream to tell me some information about where it's coming from. So in the inside of a building with high heat conditions, you have about 30 feet. So imagine yourself a blind man walking down the street with a stick. You don't see that blind man with that stick right here close to his feet, do you? He reaches out and touches with it. Same thing in the hallway. I want to reach out and touch and get some navigational information. So essentially, I've got a 30-foot leash that can allow me to do that. So I want to use it when I don't know where it is, when I don't know what box is on fire. My goal is to isolate and confirm which box is burning, and it could be multiple. I want to extinguish the gas flame and force the seat to show itself to me. The seat flame is going to be brighter, and it's going to be faster than anything else you're going to see in that area there. But essentially, we've got that 30-foot reach, and I want to be able to find out where that rebound is coming from. So in this situation, that fire is too far from him. He can't put water on the seat of the fire, so he's forcing the rebound in the hallway. So I want to be able to get that navigational information back, and it gives me a direction to start putting water that way and start moving towards it. So 30-foot blind man stick is what we're using here. So the seat of that fire is about 40 feet away from him in that hallway, and he's forcing the rebound with that stream there. Fire's on the right. Start high, move low, force the seats to show itself. Seats on the right, boom. New box, start high. Move low. The adult in the room tells him to put water on the floor. Boom. High fives and Gatorade. Seat flame we're looking for. Old heads. If you start reading old pre-SCBA texts and interviewing guys that were pre-SCBA, one thing that I heard over and over and over again is the rule of thumb that they use is twice the vertical ceiling of the room, the seat flame will extend. So if it's a 10 by 10 bedroom, that seat flame will usually come out about 20 feet horizontally. So that'll give you some navigational information from that area. So when we're looking at that bright, fast-moving seat flame, it's usually going to be, in their opinion, it's anecdotal, twice the height of the ceiling. So if it's a 10 by 10 bedroom, that will creep out about 20 feet away from that horizontal opening in that room. So what we're looking for is that bright seat flame, and compared to the dull, slow-moving gas flame that's there in the hallway there. So 5 ways we use water. So the big 5, as my brother Dennis here we talked about, we want to cool out surfaces, which is going to be turning exothermic materials into endothermic materials. So what we're dealing with inside these buildings are combustible walls and ceilings. It's almost impossible to get a concrete building or a C-can to return back to an endothermic state. But we can do that in the living room. We can do that in the hallway. And we're talking about preventing the radiation feedback of the building to prevent flashover from happening in the first place. Buddy of mine once told me it's way easier to keep the genie in the bottle than to let it pop out and try to put it back in. So we want to keep the genie in the bottle. And how we can do that is start turning these exothermic surfaces into endothermic surfaces. And for those of you who aren't nerds, exothermic means radiating heat off of it. Endothermic means it's soaking in heat. Everything in the building has a threshold. So once it reaches that threshold, it's going to start pushing back to the center of the room. Once it starts pushing back to the center of the room is when we have flashover problems. Number 2, I want to cause gas contraction, which is cool and hot smoke. Remember that just because you arrived on an engine doesn't mean you're not contributing to the rescue. The nozzleman is has the most important tool on the fire ground because it supports the most important mission on the fire ground, which is the search. So we want to be able to cause gas contraction, cause confinement in these areas, and make room for that search. So at this point is the first time that we're actually aiding in that rescue by causing the gas contraction. Rescue is the objective. It's not a task that's assigned to somebody on location. So just because you're assigned to a nozzle doesn't mean you're not aiding in the rescue. That point is when we start aiding in the rescue. Number 3, I want to cool flames, and that will give you some navigational information as we're forcing rebound like we talked about. Number 4, cools fuel surfaces, which this is the only place that extinguishment occurs. So you have to have conversations with these young guys about where the fuel is in these buildings. 95% of the fuel in these buildings is going to be 5 foot and below. So they have to at some point address the fuel sources 5 foot and below. And what happens if you see them in the parking lot, they're visually stimulated by water in the overhead. In the burn building, they're visually stimulated by water in the overhead. At some point, an adult in the room has to put the nozzle at that 5 foot and below level if we have any chance of getting extinguishment to happen. Number 5, I want to cool unaffected fuels. And that's how we're going to cause more prevention of that flashover, is cooling unaffected fuels. So imagine being in a wildfire. We want to enter from the black into the green because that's the safe zone in the black, right? So imagine if you have to enter to the green. You have to enter to the green, what are you going to do? You're going to pre-wet the green, right? So why is the living room any different? So all we're doing is just pre-wetting the green. So we're keeping ourselves from letting that genie out of the bottle. We want to keep it in the bottle and then keep it from coming out of that bottle. So confinement, I want to dominate hallways and stairwells as fast as possible. And why do we want to isolate hallways and stairwells? Because they lead to bedrooms. And where we're going to find these people 9 times out of 10? Bedrooms and passive egress. So we want to dominate these areas with the nozzles as soon as possible. So the nozzle itself will shut down or reverse flow path in front of the nozzle depending on the vent. I want to seal that hallway if I can't see the line of sight of that room, if it's off-site. So essentially, I want to draw a line in the sand. At this moment, I'm only taking space and I'm not giving it back. So as the nozzleman, we take space. We own space and then we move to the next box to own space and take space. So, as it says in the UL study here, we're just going to read a very top paragraph. During an interior attack, applying water down a hallway without a vent opposite, in a method which entrains air, all stop. Fire in a room, no vent opposite, hallway intersection, and I'm moving the nozzle in a way which entrains air, which is a circular pattern. We're looking at 1,500 to 5,000 CFM with a straight stream. So we're putting 5,000 CFM down this hallway, and it's not going over the heads of the firemen anymore. So by entraining air, we can alter the flow paths, such as hot gases are no longer flowing over the heads of the firefighters as they advance, because gas contraction is happening at a higher rate than the airflow that we can put in that area. Does that make sense? So at what point did you read gas or contraction in that sentence up there? No point. So don't just read the summary. 9 times out of 10 guys are going to read the 700-page study, they get it in their hand, and they're like, hell no, I'm going to read the last chapter. You're not going to find this information in the summary. You've got to dig into the details here. So be cognizant of where I am in reference to where the door is to that fire room or doors. If it's available to me, put water in the room immediately. If it's not available to me, start putting water downrange. I want to start putting water downrange and cause it to be sucked back into that room. Confinement is a misconception for a lot of people. They think we push it back into the rooms. It actually pulls itself back into the rooms from gas contraction. So it can only do that with an open nozzle. So make sure I've got the local area cool first before I move into that distant area. So I always like to cool from near to far. So you walked into the building with 6 layers of protection around your ass cheeks, and you only have 1 around your face. So I want to cool near to far. So fight the phone booth, then reach out and touch. So once we start reaching out and touching, I want to use distant cooling as much as possible. I want to be at the top third of the door if possible, contract gases by reducing temperature in the room. Anytime I move into a new box, it all starts over. Above, left, and right to read the box. I want to make sure I know how big the box is. Make sure I've got 360-degree coverage in that box. And as I move to the next one, top 2/3 of the room. I'm painting. Imagine yourself, you're the Bob Ross of the fire service. So as the nozzleman, I want to paint everything black. As I'm looking through it to the tick, it's red, yellow, and green, and blue in this particular case. I want to paint it all black. So as we're painting it all black and we're moving through the building, make sure we keep a slow pace so we don't outrun the water or the heel man. When I reach a new junction, every time I get to a new space, boom, hit the e-brake, everything starts over. Near to far, how big's the box, reach out and touch. Every time I get into a new spot, the process starts over. It's systematically taking the building over. All we're doing is systematically taking it back in the reverse order. So we cool near to far, start reaching out and touching, using our screen to locate the box, isolate it in an offset position, and start moving to that box. As soon as we can get water in the room, we put water in the room. As soon as we can get water on the floor, we put water on the floor. Because 9 times out of 10, the majority of the fuel is going to be at that 5-foot level and below. Get into a new box, everything starts over. Start high, move low, high fives and get ready. 3-man engine moving to the box. Got 15 seconds left. Around the corner, hit the e-brake, make some room for his heel man. Start high, move low. Heel man put some hose behind him, start moving to the box. Extinguishment only happens on plane. I want to use local cooling, and I want to match the box with the stream. Finish high, move low, and I've got to put water on that flame fuel interface in order to achieve it. This is my contact information. Feel free to reach out to me. I appreciate it. Firemanship is not dead. Rescue is the objective, not a task. Thanks, guys.